The trial is spiraling into chaos and there's still no jury. Key witnesses have vanished, jurors are dropping out, and the entire case has been delayed once again. Behind the scenes, Diddy is reportedly going on the offensive, not only trying to silence witnesses, but now suing his former bodyguard for exposing what he knows about the now infamous FreakOFF tapes. Meanwhile, Cassie is preparing to testify this week, and new reports suggest she may even require witness protection. But the biggest question remains, where is witness number 3? And why are potential jurors so afraid to speak out? Keep watching. Is one of the key witnesses in Diddy's trial backing out? Victim number 3, a crucial figure expected to testify against the music mogul, has suddenly disappeared. Her identity was set to be revealed during her testimony, but now prosecutors say they can't locate her and haven't been able to make contact. Some say it could be nerves, maybe she's scared, maybe she had second thoughts, but her absence raises serious questions and casts a shadow over the case. Still, legal experts argue this won't derail the trial. The prosecution is expected to bring forward multiple other alleged victims. Losing one witness may sting, but the case is far from over. Quick question, what country are you watching from? This trial is making global headlines, and we want to know how far the shockwaves are reaching. Drop your flag in the comments below. First witness claims bribe, reveals chilling abuse details. The long-awaited trial of Sean Diddy Combs officially began on May 13, 2025, and it wasted no time, erupting into one of the most high-stakes courtroom dramas in recent Hollywood scandal history. The prosecution has officially called its first witness in the explosive sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Taking the stand was LAPD officer Israel Flores, who worked hotel security at the Intercontinental in 2016. The same night, Diddy was caught on surveillance allegedly assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Flores told the court he responded to a call about a woman in distress on the 6th floor. When the elevator doors opened, he saw Sean Combs and a woman standing in the lobby. He immediately recognized Combs and testified that the music mogul had a devilish stare. Flores then pointed to Combs in the courtroom, confirming his identity without hesitation. At the time, Officer Flores served as second-in-command of hotel security, and what he said next could be devastating for Diddy's defense. Flores testified that Combs approached him inside the hotel room, flashing a wad of cash. The message was clear. "Don't tell nobody," Combs allegedly told him, a line that Flores interpreted as a bribe. This bombshell testimony doesn't just raise eyebrows. It strengthens the prosecution's foundation, especially with the now infamous surveillance tape officially entered into evidence. The defense, however, insists the footage is incomplete and claims the full video will paint a very different picture of what happened that night. The defense isn't denying what's on the tape, but they're spinning it. Their strategy? Frame the incident as a private domestic dispute between Diddy and his longtime girlfriend, not a crime connected to sex trafficking. Yes, they admit he was violent, but argue it was part of a toxic relationship, not part of a larger criminal enterprise. By doing so, they hope to distance Combs from the far more serious charges of coercion and trafficking. But prosecutors are pushing back hard. They say the full scope of the evidence is far more disturbing and paints a picture of calculated control, not just relationship drama. Officer Flores also testified to a chilling moment during the escort back to the hotel room. He heard Combs tell Cassie, "You're not going to leave," implying she was being held against her will. Flores said he asked Cassie multiple times if she wanted him to call the police. Her answer, "No, she just wanted to get out of there." Cassie left the hotel with visible injuries, a black eye and marks on her face, but still refused help from law enforcement. Sadly, that's all too common among domestic abuse victims, who often fear retaliation more than the violence itself. Her silence speaks volumes. Prosecutors argue this moment reflects a broader pattern, a powerful man who used fear and control to silence those around him. And with Cassie locked in a relationship with Diddy for years, it's not hard to see why she may have believed reporting him could come at a steep cost, a key point driving the entire RICO case. After Cassie left the hotel, Roger Bond Flores and another security guard made their way back to Diddy's hotel room to remind him of the property's rules. But what happened next was anything but routine. As Diddy stepped into the hallway, he shut the door behind him and suddenly snatched the other guard's phone, accusing him of secretly recording their exchange. In a tense moment, Flores reacted fast. He pinned Diddy against the wall, demanding he release the phone. This shocking encounter didn't just highlight Diddy's explosive temper, it painted a clear picture of how far he'd allegedly go to keep control. And for prosecutors, this dramatic clash only strengthens their case. A pattern of power moves and intimidation that's impossible to ignore. At 3 p.m. on the day of the incident, Flores filed a report detailing his encounter with Combs and Cassie, which the prosecution is expected to use to support his version of events. On the other hand, the defense may latch onto Cassie's statement about not wanting to involve the authorities, using it to paint the situation as one of mutual consent. They're likely to argue that the video captures a heated argument between two adults, both involved in a conflict over infidelity. The defense might also emphasize the strength and independence of the women, suggesting they could have walked away from the relationship if they felt pressured. However, jurors will need to consider the reasons many victims hesitate to call the police, including the very real fear of retaliation and escalating violence. At the start of the trial, the defense painted Combs as a complicated man, insisting this drama boils down to love, jealousy, infidelity, and money, all driven by voluntary adult choices made by capable adults in consensual relationships. In stark contrast, the prosecution zeroed in on the lopsided power balance, arguing that when it came to Cassie Ventura, Combs alone held the reins of control. That power imbalance lies at the heart of this dispute. The government claims Combs weaponized his business empire to intimidate individuals into unwanted encounters and even transport them against their will. According to federal filings, he crossed the line from personal conduct into coercion, or worse. While the defense concedes a physical altercation did occur, they insist it never escalated beyond a private, domestic matter. They flatly reject any accusations of racketeering, trafficking, or using transportation for illicit ends. With Combs's freedom and reputation hanging in the balance, both sides are gearing up for a fierce battle. The defense will argue two consenting adults had a volatile argument. The prosecution will spotlight the exploitative power dynamics that domestic disputes often mask. As this case unfolds, the jury's decision could reshape not only his legacy, but also how high-profile conflicts of influence and consent are judged in our courts. It seems the pressure is mounting as another juror has reportedly backed out of the trial. In a startling move, the juror sent an email to the judge requesting to be removed from the panel due to personal well-being concerns. This adds to the growing list of complications surrounding Diddy's trial. Prosecutors have just dropped a bombshell revealing that witness number 3 is now missing. There are whispers that Diddy may be involved in their disappearance, casting a dark shadow over the proceedings. Known for going after anyone who dares to speak out against him, Diddy's reputation for intimidation looms large. What makes this even more chilling is the fact that Diddy allegedly continued to try and contact and intimidate witnesses, even from behind bars. As the trial continues, the question remains, is Diddy pulling the strings behind the scenes, or is there something even darker at play? In recent filings, prosecutors say Diddy has a pattern of pressuring witnesses, allegedly trying to steer them away from testifying or even dictating their statements in his favor. One attorney noted that, while hundreds have come forward, they're focusing only on the strongest claims. Among those claims is a startling account from a woman who attended Diddy's themed parties. She describes scenes so over the top that she later feared some guests might have been too young to be there, sparking fresh alarm about what really went on behind closed doors. All of this builds on the portrait of a figure who, even from behind bars, is accused of pulling strings, reaching out to intimidate witnesses, shaking jurors' resolve, and now facing questions about the safety and makeup of his most exclusive gatherings. Newly revealed call records from the Metropolitan Detention Center show a shocking attempt by Diddy to influence the case from behind bars. According to the records, he allegedly tried to pay off witnesses, even going as far as calling one victim 200 times, attempting to intimidate them into silence and offer them money. Diddy is said to have used a clever tactic, calling family members and asking them to add the victim or a witness to the conversation. This way, his calls could be shielded from tracking, making it harder to pinpoint exactly who he was communicating with. Meanwhile, Gandil, Diddy's former bodyguard, has come forward with a message he received from Diddy, telling him to stop talking about him and warning that enough is enough. These actions are raising serious questions about Diddy's attempts to manipulate the trial and silence those who might expose his wrongdoings. The situation continues to spiral, with new developments unfolding almost daily. Gandil, Diddy's ex-bodyguard, also shared a chilling message he received from Diddy, demanding he stop speaking out about him, with a blunt, "Enough is enough." But this isn't the only case of Diddy allegedly trying to control the situation. Reports have surfaced suggesting that Diddy's phone was being tapped, revealing a web of intimidation tactics. One of his former associates, described as being connected to Diddy's money-driven empire, reportedly made 58 calls to another group member, pressuring them to drop a lawsuit against him. As if that wasn't enough, there are claims that Diddy didn't stop with just phone calls. Through a third party, he allegedly tried to reach out to Gandil, warning him to keep quiet. The message was clear: enough is enough. In a raw moment, Gandil fired back, "You can't tell Big Mama enough is enough. You can't tell Wolf Mom enough is enough. You tell all those people who supported you, and they survivors enough is enough." These startling developments only deepen the mystery of Diddy's behind-the-scenes attempts to manipulate and silence those who might expose him. Former bodyguard Gene Deal recently revealed chilling details about his past, working alongside Sean "Diddy" Combs, exposing a trail of betrayal, manipulation, and tragedy. Gene recounted getting a call from Kirk Burroughs, someone once close to Diddy. But Gene knew exactly what it was, a veiled attempt by Diddy to reach out without taking responsibility. He shut it down immediately. "I'm not talking to anyone who's speaking on his behalf," Gene said, especially after the pain and disrespect shown to the families of Wolf and Biggie. When the caller insisted, saying, "Enough is enough," Gene shot back, "What does that even mean? Enough lies, enough blood?" Gene made it clear he's not afraid of Diddy, even if the industry is. "They can't tell me how to live my life," he said. "I don't care what they think anymore." But the darkest part of Gene's revelations came when he recalled a New Year's Eve party that left him shaken. After stepping out for a moment, he found his girlfriend passed out in a car. She had only had champagne inside the party. When she came to, she said she felt sick and had to get out. Gene immediately suspected foul play. "That's when I knew he was spiking drinks. I saw what was happening, and it wasn't right." Gene didn't hold back in blaming Diddy's arrogance and disregard for warnings. "I told him, if we don't start moving differently, people are going to die. He didn't listen. And now, 9 people are dead." Gene Deal stands out as the only member of Diddy's inner circle who never signed a non-disclosure agreement, which is exactly why he's able to speak freely about what went on behind the scenes. According to reports, Diddy required strict NDAs from anyone involved in his private gatherings, effectively silencing those who witnessed anything controversial. Women who worked for him or his label, Bad Boy Entertainment, were allegedly exploited and even passed around to other industry executives. NDAs weren't just limited to party guests, they extended to employees and artists as well. Even when Diddy made headlines for giving publishing rights back to his former artists, it came with a catch. They were reportedly barred from ever speaking about him, his family, or anything tied to Bad Boy. Yet a handful of people like Gene Deal and a few others who never signed those agreements remain free to share what they saw, and what they're saying is raising serious concerns. Now that jury selection is nearly complete, the pressure is closing in and Diddy knows it. Sources say he's panicking, realizing he may not be able to escape this time. And in that desperation, he's allegedly turning to threats and intimidation once again. What's more alarming is that this case might not end with Diddy. Insiders claim there are even bigger names tied to the scandal, powerful figures who could be exposed if Diddy falls. In fact, jurors were handed a list of high-profile celebrities who haven't even been named in the official lawsuit, hinting that prosecutors may be holding back explosive details for a dramatic reveal in court. With Diddy fighting to protect himself and potentially others, the trial is shaping up to be far more than just a battle over his own legacy. It could blow the lid off an entire network of secrets Hollywood has tried to keep buried. Here's why names like Michael B. Jordan, Kanye West, and other celebrities are suddenly being linked to Diddy's trial. Do you believe Diddy is just the tip of the iceberg in a much bigger Hollywood cover-up? Comment yes if you think more powerful names will fall, or no if you think he's acting alone. Let the world know where you stand. Shocking halt to last phase of jury selection. As jury selection kicked off on May 5th in New York, these are reported that prospective jurors were handed a list of over 100 names, ranging from celebrities to industry insiders and locations, that could come up during the trial. Among them were actors like Michael B. Jordan and Mike Myers, and rapper Kanye West. It's important to note that none of these celebrities are accused of wrongdoing or implicated in the case, so why were their names included? Jurors were asked if they recognized any names on the list and whether that recognition might affect their ability to remain unbiased. No explanation for the full list was provided by attorneys, leaving many to speculate about just how wide this investigation might reach. Also included were names of women who have taken legal action against Diddy, most notably his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, whose 2023 lawsuit was settled within a day, and Danity Kane alum Dawn Richard, who filed a lawsuit in September. While Diddy has denied all allegations, the presence of such a long and high-profile name list suggests this trial may expose much more than anyone expected. Potential jurors in Diddy's trial are being asked about some unexpected names, big celebrities like Robert Downey Jr. and Mike Myers, with no clear reason why. And now, the courtroom has turned into a guessing game as everyone tries to figure out how, if at all, these famous faces are connected to Diddy or the charges he's facing. In a strange moment, one juror mentioned knowing a Robert Downey from high school, which sparked laughter. But the courtroom quickly refocused when it was noted that Robert Downey Jr. and Diddy have been seen together publicly in the past, though there's no evidence Downey ever attended Diddy's infamous parties. Still, if his name ends up tied to this trial in any substantial way, it would shock even long-time Hollywood watchers. Mike Myers' name is also on the jury screening list, another curious addition. No one has explained why these celebrities are being included, and their presence on the list remains a mystery. For now, the public is left speculating. Are these names just precautionary references, or is there a deeper, more explosive connection waiting to be revealed in court? While a few of Diddy's celebrity acquaintances are being name-dropped in court, others seem to be distancing themselves fast. The pressure is mounting, and those who were once close to the mogul appear to know just how damaging the fallout could be. Sources claim Diddy was offered a plea deal, one that allegedly involves naming names and revealing who else was involved in his operations, and now the ripple effects are starting to show. One of the biggest shockwaves, Bishop T.D. Jakes abruptly stepped down as lead pastor of the Potter's House megachurch just days after news of Diddy's supposed plea deal broke. The timing has raised eyebrows, and many are questioning whether the bishop's decision is connected to what Diddy might reveal next. If these reports are true, it's not just Diddy who's in trouble. Anyone tied to his inner circle could soon find themselves in the spotlight. For the first time in the history of New York City, a sitting mayor has been indicted for crimes. ABC News reports that Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury, though the exact charges have not yet been disclosed. Federal authorities have been investigating Adams and members of his staff, issuing subpoenas for documents and cell phones. Several members of his administration, some of them close friends, have already resigned. In other major news, Bishop T.D. Jakes, a spiritual advisor to presidents and a guiding voice for thousands, announced he is stepping down from leadership at the Potter's House, the Dallas megachurch he founded in 1996. After suffering a heart attack last November, which he revealed months later, Jakes told his congregation that he has been preparing his daughter, Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts, and son-in-law, Pastor Touré Roberts, to take over the ministry. As the situation escalates, it's become painfully clear that witnesses are no longer safe. Amid growing concerns of intimidation and interference, jury selection for Diddy's trial has been delayed. The fear surrounding the safety of key witnesses is so intense that federal protection may soon be necessary to prevent Diddy's associates from silencing or threatening those set to testify. The stakes are higher than ever, with the looming question of how far Diddy and his team are willing to go to protect themselves as the case unfolds. As the legal battle intensifies, it's evident that this trial is not just about Diddy, it's about ensuring justice for the witnesses who have come forward, despite the immense pressure they're facing. This morning, Sean Combs is gearing up to face serious sex crime charges that could land him behind bars for decades. The crucial moment is approaching, as 12 jurors will soon be chosen to decide his fate, with selection set to begin first thing Monday. Attorneys will sift through a pool of more than 40 prospective jurors, narrowing it down. Initially, the judge planned to complete this process on Friday, but reconsidered, fearing that giving the jurors the weekend to think it over might lead to hesitation or second thoughts. Once the jury is sworn in, the trial will kick off with opening statements, and the first witnesses will take the stand. Among them is Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, one of the women federal prosecutors say was manipulated into participating in horrific freak-offs, drug-fueled sex marathons that are at the heart of the case. The coming days promise to reveal chilling details that will leave everyone on edge. Leaked calls from the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, have exposed a disturbing effort by Diddy to silence his accusers. Reports suggest that he attempted to pay them off in an effort to keep them from testifying. This tactic is not without precedent. Jay-Z reportedly used similar methods when he was named in a lawsuit linked to Diddy. In that case, a victim was offered $10,000 to drop the case, which, shockingly, she did. It's clear there were more than just financial incentives at play. There are likely threats behind the scenes, as evidenced by the sudden withdrawal of victims and jurors just days before the trial. This raises serious questions. What kind of pressure is being applied behind closed doors, and who else might be involved in this orchestrated attempt to derail the legal process? The timing of these developments suggests a coordinated effort to ensure certain people stay quiet at all costs. In a dramatic turn, prosecutors filed new papers overnight, revealing that a recent jail sweep uncovered key evidence. The documents claim that Combs recently paid off an unnamed witness who posted a statement on Instagram which prosecutors argue was an attempt to influence and taint the potential jury pool. The filing also accuses Combs of using phone accounts linked to at least 8 other inmates, further complicating the case. Despite this mounting evidence, Combs' legal team is still pushing for the judge to grant him bail. However, prosecutors are once again arguing that bail should be denied, citing the ongoing efforts to manipulate the case and interfere with the legal process. The situation continues to grow more tense as the trial approaches, with Combs' team fighting for his release, while prosecutors aim to keep him behind bars until the trial concludes. In a surprising new legal move, Diddy's defense team is attempting to shift the blame onto the victims. His lawyers have stated that they will argue Cassie was the one who was violent in the relationship, and that Diddy was simply defending himself. This claim is nothing short of outrageous and easily disproven. The evidence, including the tape showing Diddy violently assaulting Cassie, makes it clear that he is the aggressor in this situation. Diddy's attempt to portray himself as the victim is a desperate tactic, one that only adds to the growing picture of him as a dangerous and violent individual. In the latest developments of Diddy's trial, his defense team is taking a bold approach by claiming that while Diddy was indeed abusive toward his ex, Cassie, she wasn't without fault either. They are suggesting that there was mutual violence in the relationship, with both parties allegedly engaging in domestic violence. Day 2 of the trial saw an intense exchange between the prosecutor, Diddy's defense attorney, and the judge. It began with the prosecutor informing the judge that they would not be cross-examining Cassie about certain medical issues related to the case. Commenter number 19 below: 1 if you think Diddy's mutual violence defense is total spin, 9 if you believe both were equally to blame, and anything in between for the shades of grey. Where do you stand? Diddy's defense crumbles as ex-lawyers flee. As Sean Diddy Combs' legal troubles continue to intensify, his defense team is taking an aggressive stance against the abuse allegations made by his ex-girlfriend, singer Cassie Ventura. In newly filed legal responses, Diddy's attorneys argue that the narrative portraying him as the sole aggressor in their relationship is incomplete. They claim that Cassie also engaged in violent behavior, and they plan to present evidence of mutual volatility to support their argument. This new defense strategy emerges amid increasing public scrutiny over Diddy's past conduct, which includes ongoing federal investigations and multiple lawsuits. Diddy's legal battles are quickly becoming one of the most closely watched cases, with his reputation hanging in the balance. The claims made by his defense team are likely to further fuel the controversy surrounding the music mogul and his interactions with those closest to him. How this new argument will impact the trial remains to be seen, but it marks a significant turning point in the proceedings. However, Diddy's lawyer countered by stating that they would admit to domestic violence, but they would argue that the violence wasn't coercive on Diddy's part. The defense's claim centers around the notion that the violence was mutual, not one-sided. The judge, trying to clarify, asked if they were essentially arguing that both parties were simply violent. The defense affirmed that stance, stating it was relevant to their case. Additionally, Diddy's legal team is planning to submit 2 cell phone videos and the full version of the infamous footage where Diddy was seen attacking Cassie at the Intercontinental Hotel in LA. His team had previously argued that the video was doctored, but now they claim to have the unaltered footage, which they plan to introduce in court. This move could potentially shift the narrative, but it remains to be seen how it will play out. The drama in the courtroom is escalating, and the trial is expected to reveal even more shocking details. Diddy's defense team has shifted their strategy to argue that his mental state at the time of the alleged crimes should shield him from liability. His lawyers claim that due to the effects of substances and alcohol, Diddy was unable to fully understand the consequences of his actions, implying that his cognitive function and memory were significantly impaired. To support this claim, Diddy has lined up a doctor who is expected to testify about the impact these substances had on his mental capacity. However, prosecutors have strongly opposed this line of defense, arguing that Diddy's alleged mental condition should not absolve him of guilt. They assert that the effects of substances and alcohol do not negate his accountability for his actions. The prosecution is also pushing to block testimony from a forensic video expert who claims that a video showing Diddy allegedly abusing Cassie was altered. The trial is intensifying with these conflicting arguments. As Diddy's defense continues to raise questions about his mental state, it remains to be seen how the court will rule on these issues and how they will shape the outcome of the case. The situation surrounding Diddy's trial has become increasingly dire for the rap mogul. His legal team, once composed of a robust group of high-profile attorneys, is now facing significant challenges. One of Diddy's long-standing attorneys, Anthony Rico, filed a motion to withdraw from representing him, citing an inability to continue providing effective counsel. Rico, who had worked with Diddy for over 20 years, expressed his concerns in a February 21st filing, stating that under the circumstances, he could no longer meet the standards for criminal defense counsel. The filing highlights that the mounting evidence against Diddy, combined with the nature of the case, has created a situation where his legal team no longer sees a viable path to winning. Rico's decision to step down reflects the weight of the legal challenges ahead, as prosecutors continue to present a strong case on sex trafficking charges and other serious allegations. This loss of legal representation from a trusted lawyer raises further questions about Diddy's future in the case and signals the escalating difficulties he faces. With his defense team shrinking and new revelations emerging, the road ahead looks increasingly uncertain for the music mogul. In a stunning turn of events, the prestigious law firm Grubman, Shire, Meiselas and Sachs has officially cut ties with none other than Sean "Diddy" Combs. This firm, led by the legendary Alan Grubman, is a heavyweight in the entertainment world, representing global icons like The Weeknd, Madonna, Chris Brown, Usher, and Bruce Springsteen. Grubman, who's also a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee and one of the founding members of the hall itself, is the epitome of success in the legal industry. But the shocking part of this split, rumors are swirling that Lady Gaga, a key client of the firm, reportedly threatened to walk unless Combs was dropped. According to News Nation's reports, this put Grubman's firm in a tough position. After all, Combs had been with them for more than 2 decades, and the bond between him and Grubman appeared to be strong. What led to this dramatic fallout? Only time will tell. Diddy is clearly feeling the pressure as his legal team scrambles to protect him. For months now, he's been working behind the scenes to eliminate any potentially damning evidence. His attorneys are now pushing back against the federal authorities' search warrants, which were used to raid his properties in Los Angeles and Miami. They argue that these warrants were unconstitutional, claiming they were far too broad in scope. Diddy's defense is determined to get all the evidence seized by the feds thrown out, labeling it as unlawfully obtained. The stakes couldn't be higher as the battle over these critical pieces of evidence heats up. The much-anticipated trial of Sean Diddy Combs has officially kicked off, with jury selection taking center stage in a case that has the entertainment world on edge. While no jurors were chosen on the first day, the proceedings have already shed light on some shocking developments. Diddy entered the courtroom dressed casually in a crew neck sweater and white button-down shirt, his hair and goatee tinged with grey. At one point, he admitted to feeling nervous and even asked the judge for a bathroom break. Diddy trial: P. Diddy as a criminal in wild freak-off details exposed. The long-awaited trial of Sean Diddy Combs has officially begun. In a courtroom packed with tension, the jury was selected, opening arguments were fired off, and two key witnesses, an ex-security guard and a male escort, took the stand. After months of swirling headlines, sealed documents, and explosive allegations, Sean Diddy Combs has finally faced the first official day in court. Cameras captured every moment as he arrived under tight security while the world tuned in, waiting to see what truths might be revealed. What unfolded inside wasn't just legal procedure. It was the opening act of a scandal that's already gripping Hollywood and beyond. Today, prosecutors came out swinging. They painted Diddy not as the music mogul fans admired, but as someone living a double life. To the world, he was Puff Daddy, a larger-than-life icon, they said. But behind closed doors, it was a very different story. Sean Diddy Combs trial day 1. First witnesses take the stand. Prosecutors wasted no time unveiling what they claimed was the dark reality behind the music mogul's empire. According to them, Diddy wasn't just a celebrity, he was the orchestrator of a tightly controlled inner circle, accused of running a secretive operation for years. They described him as manipulative, dominating, and prone to extreme behavior. Witnesses allege he subjected them to bizarre, days-long private events, referred to in court as freak-offs or Wild King Night. But the defense pushed back hard. They admitted Sean Combs is a complex figure, but insisted the case itself is simple. His lawyer addressed the now infamous surveillance footage showing Combs dragging and kicking his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, acknowledging it shows clear domestic violence. However, they argued that one disturbing incident doesn't prove any wider criminal scheme. Inside the courtroom, Diddy's mother and children sat quietly behind him, a show of unwavering support as he now stands accused of 5 federal charges, including racketeering conspiracy. If convicted, Combs could spend the rest of his life behind bars. He has denied every allegation. Now it's up to a jury of 8 men and 4 women to decide what comes next, and in the next segment, we'll take a closer look at who they are and why they could be the most important people in Diddy's life right now. The defense wasted no time trying to soften the picture painted by prosecutors. They argued that what's being described as exploitation were, in reality, consensual encounters, saying Diddy simply lived a bold, unconventional lifestyle as a high-profile celebrity. What country are you watching from? Drop your flag in the comments, and don't go anywhere because the wildest twists in Diddy's trial are still to come. In today's trial, Sean Diddy Combs entered the courtroom just before 9 a.m., dressed in a grey sweater, matching slacks and glasses. He greeted his family with a wave and even formed a heart with his hands, a quiet moment of emotion before the storm. At the defense table, he appeared focused, organizing paperwork and most notably reading a Bible. The sight didn't go unnoticed. Observers whispered that perhaps he was seeking strength or clarity as the high-stakes proceedings began. Once finished, he carefully placed the Bible into his briefcase, a subtle confirmation of what many suspected. This was more than just a legal battle. It was deeply personal. Diddy's family showed up in full force. His adopted son, Quincy Brown, biological sons Justin and Christian, his daughters Delilah, Jessie, and Chance, all were there. His ex-partner, Misa Hilton, and his mother, Janice Combs, joined them in a show of unwavering support. Sean Diddy Combs isn't walking into court alone. He's backed by a powerhouse legal team. Leading the defense is famed attorney Mark Geragos, known for representing controversial figures like NXIVM's Keith Raniere. Alongside him is his daughter, Tenny Geragos, rising in the legal world. The defense lineup also includes appellate expert Alexander Shapiro, Brian Steele, who recently defended rapper Young Thug, and Xavier Donaldson, a top-tier defense lawyer with deep roots in New York's Southern District. The team is further reinforced by trusted aides Anna, Jason, and Linda. But the prosecution is just as formidable. Representing the government is the Southern District of New York, one of the most relentless legal teams in the nation, boasting a near unmatched conviction rate of 90 to 95%. While interim U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton isn't physically in the courtroom, his presence is felt through the high-profile team he's put in place. Among them is Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director James Comey. And in a move that many see as both strategic and symbolic, the prosecution is made up entirely of women, a powerful statement in a case involving numerous female accusers. With legal giants on both sides and bombshell testimony already shaking the courtroom, this trial isn't just about one man. It's shaping up to be one of the most closely watched celebrity showdowns in recent memory. The prosecution has begun building its case by calling a male escort and a former security guard to the stand, both significant witnesses. This move appears to serve a dual purpose. First, to introduce and legitimize a key piece of video evidence, and second, to lay the groundwork for a major testimony from someone central to the case, likely Cassie Ventura. Legal analysts believe Cassie may testify as early as tomorrow. She's considered victim number one by the prosecution, and her testimony could be a pivotal moment in the trial. There's also a practical reason for her early appearance. Cassie is visibly pregnant, which could limit her ability to travel or participate later in the proceedings. Getting her in and out quickly may be part of the logistical strategy. Interestingly, her husband was seen leaving the courthouse today, adding to speculation that Cassie will take the stand imminently. While it may seem early in the trial for such a key witness, it could reflect the prosecution's intention to open strong and set the tone for the rest of the case. In a shocking moment during the trial, a male witness testified that he was paid to have sex with Cassie Ventura while Sean Diddy Combs sat in the corner watching, and as this was being said in court, Diddy calmly pushed his chair back, crossed his legs, and showed no reaction. Meanwhile, his daughters quietly left the courtroom. Israel Flores, a former security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel, recalled responding to an emergency call on March 5, 2016, about a distressed woman on the 6th floor. When he arrived, he saw a shaken Cassie Ventura and Diddy sitting nearby with what Flores described as a devilish stare. Flores walked the jury through key surveillance footage, some shown in court, some he had saved on his phone. The video showed Cassie in blue pants and a hoodie, barefoot, putting on socks near the elevator. Suddenly, Diddy came charging around the corner, shoved her from behind, knocked her down, and stomped on her. The violent encounter didn't stop there. Key details of the final jury selection. The jury seated for Sean Diddy Combs' trial is made up of 8 men and 4 women, and there's already plenty of buzz about who they are. Their backgrounds are diverse, from a massage therapist to a retired telephone lineman. But what really stands out is their age. Most are over 50, and one juror is 74 years old. In evaluating the 12 jurors selected for the trial, consultants are analyzing more than just gender and age. They're focusing heavily on the jurors' occupations, as these can influence whether someone approaches the case emotionally or analytically. Why does that matter? Legal analysts say older jurors are not only more available for long trials, this one is expected to last 8 weeks, but they may also have more traditional views, especially when it comes to issues like consent. That subtle generational difference could end up benefiting the defense. Now, when it comes to jury selection, it's not about finding the perfect juror. It's about removing the wrong ones. Lawyers on both sides work to eliminate people who seemed biased or uninterested. In the end, each team believes they've kept jurors who could lean their way. The defense is banking on neutrality or even quiet sympathy. The prosecution? They're confident this group can hand down a conviction. From the list of current jurors, several appear favorable to the prosecution. These include a social worker, a non-profit employee, and someone who works at a nursing home, professions that suggest a more emotionally sensitive perspective. which could align with the prosecution's strategy in this emotionally charged case. On the other hand, there are also jurors with highly analytical backgrounds, such as an investment analyst, a logistics analyst, and a scientist. These individuals are more likely to scrutinize the evidence closely and be less swayed by emotional testimony. Attorneys use this occupational insight to shape their arguments. The prosecution may lean into emotional storytelling and survivor testimonies to connect with jurors who are naturally empathetic. Meanwhile, the defense will aim to separate emotion from fact, urging the more analytical jurors to focus strictly on the legal charges and not get carried away by emotional reactions to Sean Combs' behavior or past. Ultimately, the jury's mix of emotional and analytical thinkers could lead to a complex deliberation process, one where logic and empathy may clash as they decide Combs' fate. On a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you think Diddy will be found guilty? 1 means completely innocent, 10 means absolutely guilty. Drop your number in the comments and let the debate begin. Diddy trial plot twist: victim 3 goes missing. Just as jury selection in the Sean Diddy Combs trial nears completion, a major curveball hits the prosecution. One of their key witnesses, identified as victim 3, has vanished without a trace. This sudden disappearance throws a wrench into the government's case and sends shockwaves through the courtroom. Meanwhile, another twist has rocked the headlines. Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who was previously caught on video enduring a violent assault, is now confirmed to be pregnant. Victim 3, who was set to testify and reveal her identity in court, has suddenly pulled back. Prosecutors planned for her to deliver explosive testimony, but now they can't even reach her. Some believe she may simply be afraid, rattled by the pressure, or possibly having second thoughts. But in a case already flooded with twists, her disappearance raises far more questions than it answers. So what happens if victim 3 never shows? Legal insiders are sounding the alarm. One attorney warned that the sudden disappearance of such a key witness could seriously damage the prosecution's momentum, especially since several other accusers are already reluctant to take the stand. Still, another legal expert claims the case isn't dead yet. With multiple alleged victims still scheduled to testify, the prosecution may be able to push forward. But in a trial already steeped in Hollywood scandals, losing victim 3 could be the twist that changes everything. Building a case against someone as rich and influential as Diddy isn't just hard, it's a legal battlefield. The allegations stretch across 2 decades, from 2004 to 2024, making it even harder to connect the dots. Prosecutors are racing against time to protect witnesses and secure their testimonies, but in a case this explosive, fear looms large. Public pressure is intense, and many potential witnesses are terrified to speak out. That's the harsh reality of prosecuting Hollywood scandals, especially when the accused holds power, money, and a media spotlight. Adding to the complexity, many of the allegations are deeply personal, intimate, private, and humiliating. These aren't just legal claims. They're dark episodes that happen behind closed doors. That alone makes potential witnesses hesitate. It's not easy to relive moments like that in public, let alone in a courtroom. Investigators are forced to spend countless hours building trust, slowly, carefully, just to get someone to open up. But Diddy isn't just facing a scandal, he's staring down some of the most serious charges imaginable. Federal prosecutors allege he ran a full-blown criminal enterprise using his companies, including Bad Boy Entertainment, as a front. According to the government, he didn't just pull strings, he used threats, weapons, and various forms of abuse, emotional, physical, and beyond, to control people and protect his empire. What's more chilling? The original indictment claimed Diddy was likely to retaliate against anyone who dared testify, and now prosecutors say the intimidation didn't stop after his arrest. They believe he's been trying to silence witnesses even from behind bars. If the prosecution's claims hold up, this could be a textbook case of witness tampering. According to reports, Diddy didn't just try to silence people, he may have also pushed others to speak out in his defense. In one instance, it's alleged that he even helped draft a statement for a woman meant to discredit one of his accusers in a civil case. That's not just aggressive, it's calculated. Witness tampering is a serious offense on its own, but layered onto everything else Diddy is accused of, it paints a chilling picture. While he maintains his innocence, legal experts agree. Where there's smoke, there's usually fire, and in a case this packed with disturbing claims, there may be more than just smoke. Do you think Diddy tried to silence his accusers from behind bars? Yes or no? Type yes if you believe the witness tampering claims are real, or no if you think it's just a legal strategy by the prosecution. If convicted, Diddy could be looking at a minimum of 15 years, possibly even life behind bars. Despite the mounting evidence and headlines, he continues to insist he's innocent. But even before opening statements began, the trial faced delays. Jury selection turned into a major obstacle, with several candidates backing out, unwilling to get involved in such a high-stakes, high-profile case. The judge addressed the hold-up, saying the court was simply being cautious to ensure everything runs fairly and without disruption. Interestingly, Johnny Depp's former attorney, Ben Chu, weighed in with his take on jury strategy. I think you want somebody who wants to serve, someone eager to serve, because that suggests that person might be inclined toward a celebrity like Diddy. I would also, in this case, I would want men, not because men support abuse, but I could see this being very difficult for women jurors. Ben Chu didn't stop there. He added that if he were advising Diddy, he'd push for younger jurors. Older jurors might not work in his favor, he explained. Youth could bring a different kind of empathy, or at least less judgment toward a celebrity lifestyle. Diddy's legal team is preparing to argue that his past relationships weren't as one-sided as they seem. In other words, they'll claim the drama went both ways, that both parties were responsible for what happened, but legal experts warn that's a risky defense. Because even if both sides had issues, it doesn't erase the core accusation, abuse of power. What really matters is who held the control. And if Diddy used his wealth, status and influence to manipulate or dominate others, that remains a serious legal and moral issue. And for those who couldn't be controlled, the consequences could be terrifying. Just ask Aubrey O'Day, who once worked closely with Diddy. I wasn't willing to do what was expected of me. Not talent-wise, but in other areas, she said. It's difficult when you're that young to understand your worth as a woman through the men that I was around. And that was very traumatic. I don't think any of us have healed from that. She recalled how Diddy tore her down over her appearance. Diddy would be like, "You're not hot anymore," like, "What happened? You don't have anything, like you don't have any curves. You're looking like you're not looking like I can't get people to think that you're my good-looking person." Jurors don't usually respond well when the defense tries to paint the victim as equally at fault. That kind of tactic can easily backfire, and Diddy's legal team may be walking a dangerous line. At the heart of their strategy is a hotel surveillance video showing what appears to be a physical altercation between Diddy and his former partner, Cassie Ventura. His lawyers are expected to downplay the incident, possibly framing it as nothing more than a heated personal dispute, something private, not criminal. But that won't be easy. Cassie, who's now pregnant, is set to take the stand under her real name, while most other alleged victims remain anonymous. Legal experts say her current condition could make her more relatable and emotionally powerful in the eyes of the jury. Her smaller stature could also weaken any claim that she shared equal responsibility in what happened. Meanwhile, Diddy continues to deny every allegation. He's pleaded not guilty, and in a bold move, has reportedly rejected every plea deal offered. That alone has raised eyebrows and suggests he's either supremely confident or ready to gamble everything. Major new evidence could derail P. Diddy's sex trafficking trial. Once celebrated as a billionaire mogul, a powerhouse in music, business and entertainment, Diddy's empire is now under serious threat. The spotlight has shifted, and it's no longer about fame or fortune. Attorney Andrew Van Arsdale, who already represents 37 individuals in civil cases against Diddy, dropped a bombshell in an interview with CNN. He revealed that more than 400 additional potential claims are waiting in the wings. If even a fraction of those move forward, this could spiral into one of the biggest legal battles the industry has ever seen. According to Van Arsdale, many of the individuals who haven't yet stepped forward are terrified of the potential consequences if Diddy isn't convicted. The power he holds over the industry, coupled with the threats they fear to their careers, has kept them silent for so long. Van Arsdale explained, "I think there's a real fear. What if he walks free? What if he's acquitted and back in the public eye in just 2 months? What will happen to those who dared to speak up? He added that the fear remains real, with his clients still terrified of the fallout. This mirrors what attorney Tony Busby alluded to earlier in the year, when he hinted that even more cases could be coming to light. Van Arsdale revealed a staggering number. His office has fielded nearly 27,000 calls about Diddy. After sifting through prank calls and unsubstantiated claims, they estimate that around 15,000 of those were legitimate complaints. Even more shocking, he believes that over 400 of them could escalate into real lawsuits, and some of them have the potential to be massive. According to Van Arsdale, the list of names is already long and growing. While he admits some of them are familiar, his team is holding back on making anything public until every detail is verified. But if the information they've received holds up, the names they're preparing to release could shake the industry to its core. Van Arsdale isn't alone in this legal storm. At least a dozen other attorneys are now representing individuals who have filed lawsuits against Diddy. These claims span different people, locations, and time periods, painting a picture that's far bigger than anyone expected. And it doesn't stop there. One lawsuit has even thrown in a shocking twist by mentioning LeBron James. But the most explosive development yet comes out of Florida, where a man named Joseph Menzero has just filed a federal lawsuit, and what's inside that case could send shockwaves across the country. What makes this Florida lawsuit even more intense is that Joseph Menzero isn't hiding behind anonymity. He's putting his real name on the line. In his complaint, Menzero claims he was the victim of a coordinated and deeply disturbing operation that began in 2015. According to the filing, he was allegedly drugged, transported without consent, and subjected to horrific abuse as part of what he describes as a highly organized scheme involving powerful figures. The lawsuit outlines a long-standing pattern of intimidation, cover-ups, manipulation, and psychological control that, he claims, lasted for years, long enough to extend the legal timeline for filing under federal law. And then comes the jaw-dropping part. The complaint names several high-profile individuals: Jacob Arabo, Jay-Z, Gloria Estefan, LeBron James, and Beyoncé Knowles Carter, not as defendants, but as potential witnesses, citing their alleged knowledge or presence during what Menzero calls FreakOFF events, reportedly led by Diddy. The term FreakOFF has surfaced repeatedly, not just in Diddy's criminal case, but in multiple civil lawsuits as well. It's used to describe controversial, long-lasting private gatherings that have raised serious concerns over the years. And in this latest lawsuit, Menzero isn't just taking on Sean Combs. He's also naming Eric Macias and Brendan Paul as defendants. Paul, in particular, has been described in a separate lawsuit as someone closely tied to Combs, allegedly tasked with managing questionable activities behind the scenes. Prosecutors have just introduced new evidence, and while much of it is still sealed from public view, legal analysts believe it's directly tied to the growing number of civil lawsuits against Diddy. Although the court documents have been heavily redacted, experts say the contents suggest prosecutors may be highlighting troubling behavior involving underage individuals. This would be a major move to establish a pattern of misconduct. With over 30 lawsuits already stacked against him and damning video footage showing him physically attacking Cassie, the pressure is closing in fast. Many believe it's no longer a question of if Diddy will face serious consequences, but when. The allegations now on the table implicate a vast network of unidentified witnesses and alleged co-conspirators spanning the globe. What makes it even more chilling is that some of the key witnesses connected to these incidents are no longer alive, complicating the defense's ability to mount a counter-argument. The defense is in an incredibly tight spot. They're not even allowed to disclose the identities of those mentioned in the case's disclosure letter to Diddy himself. This severely limits their ability to conduct any meaningful investigation. With these new accusations on the table, experts agree that the case is set to drag on for months, if not years. If the court allows these revelations to stand, they could spark a series of mini-trials, potentially doubling the original estimated timeline of just 3 weeks. This is an explosive allegation, and honestly, it's hard to dismiss entirely. If prosecutors are introducing evidence of uncharged conduct, the defense should have the right to investigate and challenge it. The very fact that they're bringing it up seems to suggest they have a strong point to make. If the court allows this evidence to stand, it could lead to significant delays, possibly dragging the trial out far beyond what anyone initially anticipated. The stakes are higher than ever, and the clock is ticking. Diddy's legal team has argued that all the so-called FreakOFF tapes and baby oil recovered from his mansion were seized illegally, claiming the search warrants weren't properly obtained. They've demanded that this evidence be thrown out, but Judge Arun Subramanian ruled otherwise, declaring all the submitted evidence admissible. Now it's looking increasingly likely that these tapes will be presented in court and possibly played in front of the public. As Diddy fights to suppress the evidence in his federal trial, the pressure is mounting, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Diddy's defense team is pushing hard to suppress any evidence obtained during the controversial searches, arguing that the government misrepresented the facts when applying for the search warrants. They claim certain crucial details were left out and salacious, unverified claims from an unnamed producer were included, painting a false narrative. The charges against Diddy are serious racketeering, conspiracy, trafficking, and prostitution, but he has pleaded not guilty to all of them. The defense is also challenging the portrayal of his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, claiming she was not coerced into participating in the alleged FreakOFF activities, but rather was a willing participant in what they describe as drug-fueled performances. This challenge comes just 3 months before trial, adding even more fuel to the fire. In the meantime, Diddy has lost one of his attorneys, Anthony Rico, who made it clear he could no longer represent him, though the reason for his exit remains unclear. As the legal battle rages on, 2 civil lawsuits against Diddy have already been dropped, one because the accuser refused to reveal her identity, and another after inconsistencies in the woman's story and Jay-Z's denial led to a withdrawal. Diddy's legal team has also pointed out other discrepancies, including one male accuser who gave an interview to CNN in December 2024, but whose account didn't match his original lawsuit. Van Arsdale, one of the attorneys, attributed this to a paperwork error, but claimed it was now rectified. Even though Diddy's criminal and civil cases are separate, some of Van Arsdale's clients are reportedly cooperating with federal investigators and could be called to testify in the future. Van Arsdale, undeterred by the turbulence of the case, vows to continue pushing for justice on behalf of his clients. "My clients will be ecstatic if and when he's convicted and behind bars," he said. "But the real victory for them will come when there's accountability for everything they've endured." As the legal battle intensifies, Diddy is losing key members of his legal team. The stage is set for an explosive trial, and as more shocking details continue to surface, the question isn't whether Diddy's empire will crumble, it's who else will be dragged down with him. Stay tuned for more updates because this story is far from over. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for the next twist in this high-profile trial.